Oh, right. I hadn't heard of that. Could be.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order, and just FYI, and that the video and audio that we have in here does catch the audience as well as the commission, and so it works out well to keep the public informed as to what we do and who else is here. So, with that, Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Thurl.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
And Mayor Lansing.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgments, is there anything anyone wants removed from the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under old business, hearing upon the application for the sale of alcoholic beverages, transfer of retail on-sale liquor license, Joseph A. Hohenthaler, Smokehouse Recreation and Bar, to Jordan Lamb, LC 43 LLC. Is there anyone here that wants to speak pro or con? Please step up to the mic. Thank you.
My name is Jordan Lamb, Cameron Schaefer. We're partners in going in on the Smokehouse Bar together. Also with my cousin who lives in Pier. Looking to take over ownership, close on it September 17th. So hoping to get the license transferred prior to closing of the building as well.
So, no, very good. And I believe in that when Mr. Waldner was here before, and that he had, because tonight and that we're moving on the approval. And if I remember right, he said everything was in order. Any comments or to add that, Jen?
No, as always, everything's in order. Cam well, so everything's in order, and yes, no issues on our end.
So I'm going to move on down to new business. Approve the application for sale of alcoholic beverages, transfer of retail on-sale liquor license, Joseph A. Hohenthaler, Smokehouse Recreation and Bar, to Jordan Lamb, LC 43 LLC. If any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
We'll
you.
get it sent in, you know the process. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, number 2 on old business. Hearing upon the application for the sale of alcoholic beverages, temporary liquor license, Knights of Columbus, St. Thomas Gala. I see Tim is here. Tim, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Unless there are questions from the commission, no.
Sounds good.
We see this on an annual basis.
Yep, this is something that we do annually. So with that, I'm going to move on down to new business. Approve the application for the sale of alcoholic beverages, temporary liquor license, Knights of Columbus, St. Thomas Gala, and it'll be September 15th. Questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the application of the sale of alcoholic beverages temporary liquor license for the Knights of Columbus, St. Thomas Gala.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving back to old business, 2019 budget discussion. And Jen, did you have anything more you want to discuss on that?
I really don't. We did put that on Friday after our initial budget meeting. Didn't really know what would come up for questions or comments between now and then. I have nothing to add. The budget ordinance that we will go through here, first reading in just a little bit, does not deviate from any of the discussions that we had on Friday. All of the capital things have been listed. So unless anybody's got any questions or additional comments or needs.
Okay. If not on discussion, we'll move down to number 3, ordinance number 1603, first reading, appropriations for 2019. And with that, this will be the first reading. If there are no changes, the second reading will be in 2 weeks. If there are changes that occur before next week, We will have another first reading next week with final reading then 2 weeks after that.
Right, which is all perfectly legal. It's just as per codified law, you have to have your first reading the first Monday meeting or 10 days thereafter.
Mhm.
Okay?
So, questions or comments?
So I guess we've been having some internal discussions about that potential RD project. If we do
Yes.
move forward to approve that, do you think that'll have effects on this budget we'll be approving?
It may.
It-
It may. I think a lot will be determined within the next week or so as we learn more, as we decide whether or not we're going to accept the package that has been offered to us. I anticipate I truly do another first reading on this, just maybe even some general fund minor changes. I'm not looking at anything major, but maybe some revenue under the general fund that could be tweaked and looked at again. And other than that, I'm comfortable with what you have in front of you as far as especially the expenditures there.
Mhm.
Do we want to go through a few things? Do we want to talk through?
I certainly think to
Yep.
open enough to say you're uncomfortable, maybe it'd be good to know. I don't need to know
Explanations.
where you are,
Right.
but what you're uncomfortable about.
On our end, maybe just a little bit better handle on some cash balances. You know, we talked at length on Friday about different things. There's a little bit more information personally I need on some cash balance things, estimations yet for 2018 that could play a part into some of this 2019 things. Remembering that just because it's placed in the budget doesn't mean you have to make the expenses. Okay, so just
And I had visited with Jen earlier, and when we put a budget together, basically we're putting it together 15 months at least prior to the end of it. And so one of the things that was discussed earlier is, okay, where do we envision our 2018 December 31st cash balances to be? And so right now there's some of that information that isn't quite as concrete, I think, as she feels it should be.
especially in the
So-
2nd cent fund.
So it's just kind of getting a better handle of, okay, this is how much has been, this is what's still projected to be out there between now and December 31st, so that she can get a more accurate count on that. That was the conversation you and I had.
Correct. Correct.
So,
I just cannot support first reading on this one. We haven't went through everybody's budget. We went through the capital outlay the other day, but we did not sit down and go through line items on this budget, and so therefore I can't support this first reading tonight, because I just feel that it's not fair to the taxpayers that we're hurrying up and trying to get this going.
Everything's posted out there though, Bob, except for the lodging and entertainment. There's a few things that weren't posted, but all of the big, long items, the line by line by line by line that makes up this, they're posted out on the website.
Yeah, I realize that, but us commissioners never sat down and discussed anything.
on each of the departments is what you're saying.
Each of the
You
departments.
want to go through it individual departments one at a time.
We should. That's what we're
I've
elected.
gone through my individual departments, and I've spent a
We've
fair
gone
amount of
through
time
our
in the
individual
Well,
utilities.
yeah, you and I did, but
Several times.
it should be presented to the whole commission, because we was elected by the people to run the
Right.
city.
But then we
And
delegated it to each area.
Kelly, you have met numerous times with your department here.
Yeah,
So
correct,
there's nothing
yeah.
that has hit, in my opinion, there's nothing that has hit here that has not been heavily discussed within
Exactly.
the individual
Yeah,
departments.
so when you say we're trying to hurry this along, I don't think we're hurrying anything.
well, we only had one budget meeting, I mean.
The process we're using right now is at the, where more of the action, the putting together of the budget happens at the departmental level with the commissioners who are responsible for those areas, meeting with them to work things out. And it doesn't mean that we can't have further discussion here. It just means
Yeah.
that
I
our approaches
understand
are a
that.
little bit different as opposed to.
Which is what we did Friday. You had the big ticket
Yeah.
items. We heavily discussed those big ticket items.
You know, you
on
say we
Friday.
just had the capital outlay, but I think the capital outlay in the department is, we looked at all the capital outlay for all the departments for the, as a whole. So I don't understand. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Bob. We're not doing it the way we used to.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm not sure that all the way we used to do it always worked well either.
It isn't always your normal practice, and I think Brad and I have had some of those conversations too.
There's nothing.
We legally have to have a first reading tonight, don't we?
You can delay it. It was here.
Oh. Well, we got our income guidelines from the finance office, and all the department heads have a pretty good idea what their expenses are. I actually feel pretty good about the budget, at least the utilities. I've spent a lot of time on it. And I trust you guys have worked through your budgets.
In the past I've asked department heads if you had to cut this by 5%, if something happened, what would you do? Do you know where you take that from? And I certainly have asked that in our budget. Gary and I talked about it a little bit today. Again, if we had to do something, what would we do? But for the most part, I think we generally feel good about what we're putting forth for public works for the department that I represent. So I can't say that I think anything is being held back at all. I think it's pretty transparent.
The substantial changes have been brought before the whole group last Friday.
Absolutely.
And that's really, I feel, as a group, what we should be focusing our time on, whereas the day in and day out expenditures, you should be able to leave that up to your individual commissioner, frankly, in terms of approving the budget.
Bob, in the past, in that, we have gone down each of the departments in that, and we've looked at their salaries, their overtime, the things in that each department was looking for besides the capital outlay budgets. And is that what you mean, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess we really haven't necessarily done that. We have the department's budgets for their department, but as a commission, we have not gone down and identified each particular item from each department. And so I guess that's what I'm hearing you saying, that you're missing out on.
I don't say we have to do every item, but there's some pretty good items in some of these departments that should be looked at.
But can we talk about them? What are we thinking that we did? Because again, that whole capital outlay list, Bob, that we went through in detail on Friday, there is nothing, again, that has not been placed in here that was deviated from. We went through all of the equipment. The mayor went by piece by equipment. The IIP things were approved during the IIP process, or the acknowledging the IIP.
The threshold was 10,000, right? Is that what we determined? Was the threshold anything that was a single expenditure above a certain amount was all listed on the capital?
Yeah, and more so.
And more so.
Look at that sheet, and more so. Anything that was above and beyond. We didn't go through gas, oil, tires, supplies,
right.
Your normal day-to-day operating. No, we didn't line item those line item by line item. But once again, they're posted. Go out to the website. They're posted. You can bring up departments, and they're hanging out there.
Yeah.
And once the rubber hits the road, we'll discuss it again once we authorize.
Absolutely. And you can't purchase anything over $50,000 without a bid type process anyway. So your larger pieces of equipment, any of your construction type projects are all going to have to come back before you bid them.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I'm thinking, that we did before was we looked at, regular hours. We looked at, overtime, for different departments and that. And I guess that's what I'm wondering if that's, where your thoughts were. And we did talk about, the equipment that different departments were purchasing, and that's in the capital outlay. But you're talking about outside of the capital outlay, the rest of their budgets for each of the departments. Okay?
Yeah. And another thing, nothing against the street department, but we used to run the street sweeper a lot more than what we are right now. It's only 6 years old, and they got to have a new one. Why? That's $200,000 and some thousand of taxpayers' dollars. And I know it's in the capital outlay, but could we get another 2 years out of it?
I don't think 2 years. I think our discussion about that was that could we get another year? Yeah, maybe. Another 2 years, yeah. But what do we have for trade-in value then at that point? That's why it's where it's at in the lineup of turnover at this point right now, because it's probably has its best value if we want to trade it in right now to move ahead. From this point on, that'll probably be some deterioration. And I know we used to run it a lot more. We talked about that too. I'm just trying to keep our equipment up to date.
Well, we was down in Sioux Falls that time, Roy.
It's not a new purchase, and it
when
isn't
they
one that
said-
we wouldn't be doing either.
They said they run theirs for 10 years,
Mhm.
and then they trade them off.
So we should do what Sioux Falls does?
Well,
Just as Sioux Falls?
I mean, they're out every day of the week.
Well, I'm glad for them, but I just don't think because somebody else does it. What works for us? What's best for us? When we schedule these replacements, whether it be vehicles or larger machinery, and put money away for those things so that we could do them in a timely manner, without it trying to try to hold things together with Scotch tape and baling wire. And we have some things, and we've done that in the past. So can we put that off? Yeah, I think we could if we had to. It's one of those things that I suspect probably we wouldn't move towards purchasing until we knew we were safe in the budget. But we'd like to put it in there in case. And we have the money put away for it. There's a good deal of it put away, put away for the purchase. If we didn't have anything, we're just asking the whole thing out of the new budget in 2019. I'd say, yeah, you may be right. That may be something in the budget alone that we can't
You're
support.
applying some of your capital
Right.
reserves.
So
to
we
get
have
the
a significant
replacement
amount of
reserves
it in
to
capital reserves for that purpose.
And once again, that is a large enough ticket item that's going to be back before you here before that's allowed to be purchased.
Yeah,
There's a
it'll
bid.
be an
Right, it's
approval
over
item because it's over the
$50,000.
$50,000.
So you will be able to heavily discuss that at the time too.
Mhm. Other questions or comments? Well, I guess the way I look at this here is go ahead, Kelly.
No, no, go ahead then. You please go ahead.
I was going to say the way I look at it here is this is just first reading, and we've got 2 weeks, if there's individual items in that to bring up, and if it is, some of the capital expenditures like that, that's going to be back before us again, and at that point in time, we'll know what the bid is for a new one. We'll know what the trade-in value is. Maybe at that point in time, and that we'll want to hear. Well, what would it be if it had more hours and a year older? What would be the depreciation between next year and a following year? And then from there, you can make a financial decision as to whether or not it's financially feasible to go now because the trade-in value is higher, or go another year, and it won't necessarily make a difference. So, but being, this is first reading, and we do have time to make adjustments, to keep the continuity on what the law requires and that on the first reading, we can make the first reading. If we do make adjustments in that, we could have a second reading, another first reading next week, and we would still have time to meet the law and have our second reading in time
Well, we can
to put the budget into the county.
And you can always amend if we don't have another first reading. If we feel that's not necessary, we have the normal first reading, second reading 2 weeks later, and anything changes, you always can do an amended budget. We just have never gone through that.
Process.
Under my guidance, I've never gone through that process. You can always amend your
Not
budget.
an amended budget at the beginning, but we have amended the budget at the end of the year when we ran into emergencies
Supplemental.
as a supplemental budget. So just to clarify that,
also
we haven't
can
done an
amend your
amended
budget.
budget. We haven't done an amended budget at the beginning of the year, but we've had things that have popped up in that where at the end of the year we had to do a supplemental budget.
But you can amend your budget at any time.
Right. Yep. So.
And there's a lot of building and structure funds around here that I'd like to take a little closer look at. And but we can give first reading, but I want some discussion before second reading, because I won't vote for second reading.
I think the discussion is, if the departments feel that they've come to a point where that what they're asking for is appropriate and necessary and in the best interest of their departments, I think a question for me is, still goes back to your concerns about the second cent sales taxes. Where does that feel weak to you right now, or does it feel vulnerable?
I just want to be able to do a better analysis of what we're going to spend yet in 2018 because of what we are budgeting for 2019. And how any of that could change potentially with what we may be looking at if we get into any RD
Okay.
process and the project that is potential for us.
You know, and keeping in mind in that, you know, the last couple of years, we've had our first and second reading with our budget showing in the red, meaning using up some cash flow.
Which we are again, if you will,
Which because of, just like Center Street, we estimated that this is how much it would cost, and the bids came in less. And so in both the last 2 years, we've started out with a negative acceptable budget to start the year, but we've ended up with a budget in the black just fine. So, you know, understanding in that what we've done just in the last 2 years, and we did the year before that as well, I feel very comfortable that, you know, we've got departments in that have managed things well. Can we do more tweaking? We always are. We're always tweaking in the departments and that, you know, and for that I commend all the commissioners and that on that. But the last 2 years, we've started out with a budget that looked like it was going to end up in the red, and we ended the year in the black in both of them. So for that, I commend the commissioners and their staff and everything on it. And so at this point in time, knowing that we, you know, can still look at things a little bit closer, and that anything over the bid limit has to come before the commission, you know, before the money's expended, you know, I'm comfortable in you know, approving the first reading.
One more thing I want to say, and then I'll be quiet. But I just don't want the capital outlay and our budget to be bankrupt in 2 or 3 years, and then we got to raise electrical rates and water and sewer rates to keep us out of the dark, because that's some other places are like that right now. So
And I would agree with you. You know,
I think it should also be noted that we worked hard to not let the budget be solely dependent on the utilities. That's been, it seems to have been a real overall goal for us, and we've done that. I mean, granted, there's been some increases in can fees and water rates, but the big one, the electrical rates, we've decreased those every year for 4 or 5 years.
Minimize the increase.
Minimize the increase. I apologize. Yes, that's true. We've minimized the
Thank you.
increase significantly, and I think it says a lot for our desire, this body's desire to not let the city be, work of the city be solely dependent on the electrical rates or the other utility rates too.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty mindful of that, and we've worked to that end. And
Bankrupt.
I think it's worth saying that we're on the right track with that. You know, we're doing.
Are you worried we're not on the right track?
well, no, I just don't want to spend our budget and then 2 or 3 years, if you look over our shoulder, and then we have to make serious cuts where nothing gets done, you know.
Well, I think we're going to be getting things done in the next few years around here. I'm looking forward to it, Bob.
Well, yeah.
I don't think we're being reckless. You're making me question
I
everything.
didn't say
now.
we was being reckless.
Well, I
And
appreciate
Commissioner
your
Phil-
concern about the future, but I can also say that, you know, 4 years ago, and this is when I started the commission, I mean, we were not in trouble, but I don't think we would want to be keeping the loans out, you know. I think we've come quite a ways.
Commissioner Phil, this year we've worked hard to do a cash analysis and add that into the budget process. That's something's a little different than what's been done in the past. In the past, we would do revenue versus expenses, and then that's all we did. Not looking at what was happening with cash, and in some areas cash has been accumulating, and to a point where we need to do something about that. We can't just keep piling cash away in some of these areas that are, you know, not being utilized, because it's the public's money, it's not our money.
Yeah.
And we need to keep it working. So we've gone and started looking at the cash a lot closer in the utilities. I can't speak for anything outside utilities, but in utilities every single fund.
An estimated cash balance, revenue and expenditure.
So we know what we've got for cash, what we think we're going to have for cash at the end of the year, and we're looking at ways to, reinfuse that cash into the budget so that we don't have too much cash. We want to have the right amount of cash, protect us from a rainy day, give us some opportunities when they come up, and make sure that, we do the best job of taking care of the public's facilities for them. And so the idea is that we want to look at cash and use that in our analysis on how's the best way to move the utilities and the rest of the budgets forward. And so we've done that this year for the first time. And, Finance Officer Heimers has done a hell of a job going through and doing all this cash work. I mean, it's a lot more work. And that's part of why we're where we are right now, is because we wanted to look at the cash. We wanted to make sure we weren't going upside down anywhere. But we also wanted to be cognizant of what we were doing, how much cash we were accumulating, and what we needed to do with that cash in the future so that we get the most bang for our buck for the public. So this year's a little different, there's no doubt. But the reason it's different is because we're trying to do it better. And we're trying to do it in a way that's more responsible to the public and their money, and not just do revenue and expenses and whatever ends up with cash at the end of the year you throw in the bank and it stays there for the next 5, 7, 10 years. We want to put this money to work in the best responsible manner. That's part of why we did in the electric, we did the cash reserve policy, so we knew how much cash we had to have for a rainy day, for all these different things. We're working on the same thing for the water and sewer, but we're also looking at those monies that aren't needed for immediate use. How can you deposit those in interest-earning accounts to get the most return on our investment so that the public's money is getting the most bang for its buck too? So it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things on the financial side that are being done right now to try to move us forward and do the best we can with the public's money.
Yeah, I never said that nobody wasn't doing their job, because I know Jen's doing a good job in finance, and you do, but...
We won't let you down.
Okay.
And the other thing, Bob, it's become, as a result of what Brad said this year, is our looking at our reserves. What reserves are full? Where are they at the point that we don't need to be putting any more money in there? And what are our targets? And should we be using some of that money to support the budget, as opposed to just continuing to build those reserves? I think a prudent reserve is always necessary, and when it's targeted, it's something like, I don't know, gov. Let's use that for an example. We targeted that for some time, but to just be putting money into reserves for a rainy day, no, that's not what you guys said the taxpayers want, and I don't think that's good administration on our part either. So I think that's where we're going. That has become abundantly rare, I think, the last 2 years, but even more so this year with public works and a couple of the other budgets. So I think we're on the right track. We're trying to do the responsible thing. Build reserves where they're necessary or needed, but also not build them so much that they are just sitting there staring at us in the face. And we can buy a new dump truck or whatever we need. I mean, whether this is discussing, we really need. I'm not going to. No, I'm nails level with the board. I found it enough.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I think we're responsible.
Yeah. I'm not saying anybody's not responsible and doing their job, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
No, very good, and that's why you were elected.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1603, first reading of appropriations for 2019.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Jen, did we have any public input? Okay, Chad, did you have anything you wanted to?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I do.
Go ahead, Cal.
I just wanted to mention, Marshall came before us a couple of weeks last week and asked that and I think we gave it a shot. We're trying to twice. I saw you the other day, tried to wave you down, but short of running you down.
I was going to ask, yeah.
But we did. So, give it a try. We'll do what we can. So to control
Hopefully
the mosquitoes.
Fans didn't get bit up. I understand. I'm on the field.
Yeah.
Going
I
to
understand.
stir it up more, but it was less. So I appreciate you guys going out there and spraying.
Thank
really
you.
do.
Thanks, Mike.
Very good.
Okay.
We're seeing no announcements, no executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Thank you for everyone for coming. So.
Marshall, I think it's just because you taste better.